Okay, we will call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia City Council for Monday, December 4th, 2017. I'd ask you to please rise for a brief invocation to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, as we enter the month of December, I'm sure a realization throughout our community that we have many, many blessings to be thankful for. From an outstanding public school system to a great park district to a city which readily delivers services to people in times of emergency and need, and when things need to get done, I think we can stand with our heads very tall and high that this community is well served by those who are in charge of serving it. We remember that as we think back to the past several weeks and note the other enjoyable factors that have entered into our community. Most notably, the great celebration we had to commence the Christmas season in our community with the community band and with the arrival of Santa Claus, but also with the great arrival of the 1917 Batavia High School football team with their state championship trophy in hand. That created memories that many of those who were there will be remembering 80 or 90 years from now when they saw it as a small child, and they remember a very grand and historic moment in our town. So for all this, we are ever so thankful as we enter the holiday season, knowing that we are rich with blessings, and hopefully we extend our appreciation. Tonight also we are going to be visited by those in charge of the annual Access Toy Drive. And again, that seems to be a very successful program, and with the loving hands of this community, hopefully this coming Sunday will be another very victorious event in that regard. We want to remember all those from our community who are serving in the defense of our liberties on foreign soil, and just ask a special blessing be showered upon them and all of those serving with the men and women from the United States military. Tonight we ask for guidance and direction as we undertake the items of business before us, and as we've said before, knowing that in the hearts and minds of each of us, we are here to vote what we feel is in the best interest of our community as a whole. We ask for all these blessings. Amen. Amen. Alderman Cerrone, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Brown.
Here.
Rosato.
Here.
Atack. Here. Stark. Here. Chancet.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Salvati.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Callahan.
Here.
Meitzler.
Here.
Malay.
Here.
Ewer. Cerrone.
Here.
McFadden.
Here.
Let the record reflect that 13 of the 14 elected members of the City Council are present and accounted for, so we have the necessary quorum to conduct business. Moving then to item number 4, items to be removed, added, or changed on tonight's agenda. Alderman Atack, do you have anything under governmental services on this?
I don't have anything this evening.
Anybody on the council? All right, then we'll move to item number 5, which is presentation of tonight's consent agenda. Alderman Atack, as Chairman of Governmental Services, would you present?
The consent agenda reads as follows. Accept and place on file Committee of the Whole minutes for September 19th and 24th, October 3rd and 24th, November 7th, 2017. Approvals, December 1, 2017 payroll in the amount of $827,144. Accounts payable check register in the amount of $3,565,757.08. City Council minutes for November 20th, 2017. Resolution 17-130-R approving the 2018 budget in the amount of $137,170,825. Resolution 17-121-R authorizing change order number 3 with Williams Brothers Construction for Phase 1 of the wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation project. Ordinance 17-69 declaring certain transformers, switchgears, and capacitors to be surplus. Ordinance 17-65, ordinance increasing municipal retail motor fuel tax and amending Title III, Chapter 23 of the Batavia Municipal Code. Ordinance 17-67, tax levy for SSA number 30. ordinance 17-68, tax levy SSA for number 57. I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Atek, second by Alderman Savati for the approval of the consent agenda as read. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Atak.
Aye.
Stark. Aye. Jansit.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 13 yes, no no's, 1 absent. Okay, moving to item number 6, we will convene the public hearing on the 2017 tax levy, scheduled to begin at 7:35, and let the record reflect I'm showing it at 7:36, so we're almost right on time. As long as we didn't start it earlier, we're not causing ourselves any trouble.
Good evening. I apologize. I didn't have that ready before the meeting started, but we can, I just have a brief presentation to go over the tax levy before we open it up to public comment. Should come on that screen shortly, but we have it over here. So the tax levy for 2017 collected in 2018 is based on equalized assessed value of $980 million. That's a 2.6% increase over the prior year. And that includes $3.7 million in new construction. The proposed tax levy is $600,000 over the prior year, as discussed at our budget meetings. $300,000 of that is for the stormwater drainage projects, and $200,000 is to fund the 2 budgeted positions, and $100,000 is dedicated to the street maintenance resurfacing capital fund. The expected rate will be 74 cents per $100 of EAV for the city. The impact to a taxpayer, we expect the increase in EAV, as I just mentioned. So for a $300,000 home, that would be $34 per year. If there were no change to the EAV, total city EAV, then the increase would be $58. That's just equating what that $600,000 is of the rate. Are there any questions on that before we open it up to public comment?
Any questions? All right. This is a public hearing, and anybody in the public who wishes to come to the mic and address us on the 2017 City of Batavia proposed budget is at this time invited to do so. Anybody want to speak?
Just to clarify, that it's on the tax levy, not on the budget. The budget was just
the tax levy.
passed.
I'm sorry. Thank you. One feeds the other, so it's kind of one and the same. I guess Peggy can come back up and tell us anything else you'd like to share.
Okay, so this will be ordinance 17-66, and that will be on the agenda for the December 18th City Council meeting for approval, and then the levy will be filed prior to the last Tuesday in December.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7, I do not see Senator McConaughey here unless there's somebody from her staff is here. I think she's planning to come maybe sometime next year, so we will pass on that one. Moving to item number 8, Mr. Bailey, sir. We have a presentation update from you on the Batavia Access Toy Drive, which is going to be the No, Mr. Bailey is totally decked out in costume.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Council, and good evening, Batavia. Before I start the little presentation, had a little problem. Well, not even a problem. One of my family members is not here tonight, and that's Rudy Dubas and his wife. Marilyn's dad is very, very sick in Colorado, and they had to fly to Colorado. So I'm asking everybody in Batavia and the council tonight to say a little prayer for the Dubas family. We're ready to go with the toy drive. Got a few notes here from the CEO over there that's taking care of that, and that's being my wife and daughter. I'm mostly one of the workers, and they tell me what to do, and I go do it. Otherwise, I don't get to eat, and I don't get to sleep. So that's been the program for many, many years, and I'm sure that program works in many, many homes here in Batavia. The drop-offs still are available. We're going to have all the schools that you can drop off toys to until Thursday this week. We will go around on Thursday and pick up any toys that's been delivered to any one of the schools. I'd like to thank the fire chief there for his assistance with all of the guys going there and picking up toys at both of the fire stations here in Batavia. The Batavia Library, Funway, Carl and Sons over on the east side, Brianna's, Pal Joey's. Just a few places that you still can drop off toys for this toy drive that's going to be on Sunday coming. So if you have not dropped off a toy or whatever not, these are still the spots that you can drop off a toy. Any gift cards or checks, they need to come here to the police department. Checks need to be made out to Batavia Access Toys. As I said in the past, don't make them out to me because I can't cash them. So any checks, gift cards, or whatever not needs to come here to the police department, made out to Batavia Access Toys. Talking to the two ladies over there, they wanted me to tell you that right now we have close to 300 families here in Batavia that we need to take care of. And I really never get nervous, as my mother always said, you don't put the prayer call out till Thursday afternoon. So I haven't really put the prayer call out yet because somehow, some way, we always make it. Not knowing what toys we're going to get from the schools and what the community's going to drop off in these drop boxes. The shortage right now is 6 to 12 girls and 6 to 12 boys. And the one that's always a real stickler for us to make is the teens. We have 57 girls in the teens, and I think 59 in the boys that we need to take care of. Those are very low numbers in both of those categories. 6 to 12 girls, 6 to 12 boys, and all teens. We're going to make it. I think that come Sunday, we're going to open up the doors back there for all the folks in Batavia that signed up to come in about 1:15. We will start the processes of making the Christmas for these children at 2 o'clock. Would like for anybody that would like to stop in and visit the toy drive between 12:30 and 1. 1 o'clock, I'm going to ask you to leave, unless you're working at the toy drive. This event is for folks to come in and be at ease and shop for their children. And it's always been that way. I don't ask anybody to bring cameras or anything in. You can bring them in and show them what we had that we're going to deliver. But at 1 o'clock, you will be asked to leave if you're not working the toy drive. All the letters have been sent out to all the recipients that's going to be coming to the toy drive. I think I have one of the letters here. It's a pink letter that will be, you will bring to the toy drive. On that letter, it says that you need to have your ID, that you're from Batavia. And on that letter, we also know what children that we're going to take care of. Batavia, we're going to make this happen again. I have no doubts that we're going to make it. I know that the cry is out tonight for us to make sure that those 6 to 12s and the teens get taken care of. Going to leave you with one little short story tonight that's happened to me. If you notice me, I'm driving that old black 95 truck out there, going around picking up toys. As I'm picking up toys, all of a sudden the brakes went out 2 weeks ago. And I didn't roll through any stop signs, but a few times I had to stick my foot out to make the stop. So I went over to Carl and Sons, and I go, Mr. Carl, I says, I got this old truck and I need some brakes put on it, I think. So he took it out and he drove it around. He goes, I don't think you need brakes. You have no brakes. Okay. He says, well, what do you do with that truck? I says, well, I go around, I pick up toys for the kids in Batavia, and I really need it. He says, Bailey, look at all these cars out here. There's no way I'm going to get that job done for you for at least 3 or 4 days, maybe a week. Okay, Mr. Carl, let me know when it's going to be ready. So that was on Wednesday, and Thursday morning I got a phone call from him, and he says, yeah, we looked at those brakes. We ordered some parts for it, and maybe in a couple of days we can put it together. Well, that afternoon he called me back. He's going, can you come over here and look at this old truck and see what we did to it? And I says, okay. So I walked in, and he says, take it around the block and see what you think. He says, I put front brakes on it, I put back brakes on it, and I had to put brake lines on it. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be like $1 million for this old 95 truck. So he says, well, what do you use that for? I says, I pick up toys for the kids at Batavia. So he reached around and he picked up the invoice and he looked at it. And I reached for my pocket for my credit card to pay him for it. And he says, Bailey, you better get going. I says, well, what do I owe you? He says, according to this invoice, there's a guy by the name of Santa Claus that took care of this invoice. Batavia still taking care of Batavia. So with that being said, Santa Claus is out there. He's working in front of me. And I know he's out there working tonight. And I know that the Batavia people are working in the same sense. Thank the council. Thank the mayor. Thank Batavia for making this another successful Christmas for over 300 families here in Batavia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions?
I just wanted, Mr. Bailey was kind enough to just issue an invitation to you on Sunday if you're not doing anything before 1 o'clock. Take a ride down there and just walk through for a minute and get a sense of the spirit of what's in that room and how, as he just described it, how supportive and phenomenal this town can really be when it needs to be. And I mean, it really creates the image of a great place to live when you see that type of a flow of generosity comes out. And it's all donated, and it's not like we went and bought it all at some store and brought it all in there. It was all out of the goodness of a lot of hearts that thing comes together. And from what Roy's telling me, the next couple of days he's got all kinds of things lined up that will probably swell the ranks down there as far as the amount of stuff he's got in there already. I was in there tonight to deliver a donation that came in the door today, and lot of stuff in there already, but there's more to come, as they say in the Tonight Show, and we've got something really to be proud of here. And certainly, I think to Roy and Rudy and their wives, who are the backbone of this thing, we owe a deep debt of thanks and appreciation. And certainly, we'll keep Rudy and his wife in our prayers as she deals with her family issues. So appreciate very much all you do, Roy, and thank you for really being a classic example of a citizen who cares.
No, thank you. And we got 300 families out there that's probably looking at TV here tonight. In Batavia, I know you won't let those families down. And even if you can't make it on that Sunday, as long as you have your letter, we're going to still take care of you, because there's people working that can't come on that Sunday. There's people that's going to have sickness. As long as you have your letter, come in. We're going to take care of you. The police department comes along with somebody, or you come along with somebody that has a need, you email us, and we're going to take care of everybody here in Batavia. Tonight, I got to go feed the reindeers and make sure that elves are still awake over there. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving to item number 9, on matters from the public for items not on the agenda. Do we have anything tonight? Okay, moving to item number, oops, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. You didn't jump up quick enough.
I didn't move quick enough. Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Tish Powell. I am the Municipal Marketing Manager with Advanced Disposal Services, your proud solid waste services provider. Just came here tonight to introduce myself, say hello, see if there's any feedback, and also to remind all of the residents in Batavia that fall leaf pickup, bagged leaf pickup continues through the month of December. No stickers required. Hopefully in the next couple of days, the rest of the leaves will manage to shake off of the trees and we can get those before the snow flies. Just wanted to come and introduce myself and wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate the good efforts of Advanced Disposal on a variety of fronts throughout the year. And I owe you a phone call because you emailed me last week, but I've been pretty hectically busy here the last few days, so
I understand.
I'll get to you. I promise. But anyway, we, I think, got a lot going on here, and certainly Advanced Disposal in your own very special way helps us do it, keep the community clean and presentable and sanitized and everything else that you do. So I appreciate all the good efforts that the company does to make us shine. So,
Well, thank you. We appreciate the partnership and look forward to many more years to come.
thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's move then to the chamber. Holly Dykeman, the executive director.
Hello, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak again tonight. I'm Holly Deachman, President and CEO of the Batavia Chamber. Just wanted to share with you some events that we have coming up in the next month plus. On Friday, December 8th, we have a ribbon cutting for the Albright Theater. They become a member of the Chambers right upstairs. So, and it is at 4 o'clock. So I hope that many of you can join us to celebrate them in our community. On Tuesday, December 12th, we have our Women in Business annual holiday networking luncheon. Will be held at the Lincoln Inn, and all of the proceeds from our raffle at that event are split between the United Way Adoptive Family and the Batavia Access Toy Drive. So if you have a raffle item that we can raffle off at the event, then please give me a call at the chamber or drop it off at our door. We'll be happy to accept. And again, the proceeds of that are split between the Adoptive Family and the Access Toy Drive. On Wednesday, December 13th, we have our networking at K. Hollis Jewelers. Our networking at cause this month is Simply Destiny. It's a youth-inspired dance team that promotes suicide awareness. On Friday, December 15th, we have another ribbon cutting for Spillane and Sons at the much anticipated opening of the Blaine Street School renovation. So if you would like to come and take a tour of the inside of that fabulous renovation that they have done of this Blaine Street School, please join us for their ribbon cutting on Friday, December 15th. They're also looking for donations at that event because they are fundraising for Chip In. On January 25th is our annual Inspire Awards program, so please mark that in your calendars to attend. It is from 6 until 9 p.m. at Marmion's Abbey Farms in the Nagel Emporium. We had the great coming together of past Citizens of the Year in the mayor's office over a couple of weeks ago, and they chose our Citizen of the Year this year as Marcia Boyce, a longtime committed helper of nonprofits in our community and business owner here in Batavia. So please come help us celebrate her. And last year we started a new award called the Spirit of Batavia Award, being given to groups that support the efforts of our community. Last year we gave it to Roy and Rudy and their families for their decades of service to our community through the Access Committee. And this year, the Citizen of the Year Committee selected the Rotary Club of Batavia to receive that award. So help us celebrate on Thursday, January 25th, the Inspire Awards for Marcia Boyce, Citizen of the Year, and the Rotary Club of Batavia for the Spirit of Batavia Award recipients. And now we've had lots of calls, lots of people have been pre-ordering and greatly anticipating the arrival of Batavia Opoly. And I just heard from Scott this evening that they have arrived in the United States. They were on a... They what?
From the North Pole.
From the North Pole on Santa's sleigh. That's one of his first things he had to do for this year was to make sure that our Batavia Opoly games came in. And we're anticipating that they will make it from the port to our hands by December 18th. So we are doing the best that we can to get them in the hands of all of those people that tried to pre-order them for a holiday gift-giving idea. We've sold approximately 500 of the 750 that we ordered. So if you are still interested in getting a copy of Batavia Opoly, please call us at the Batavia Chamber. Our number is 630-879-7134. Or you can send me an email at holly@bataviachamber.org. Because we anticipate that once they come into town and people see them, they definitely want to order their own, so they're going to go quickly. We did order some additional sets of the pewter pieces, which I'm probably just going to keep for myself, quite honestly. But they're super cute, and they're exactly what we were hoping for. It really is going to change and upgrade the game to be a real Batavia game with the Bulldog and, of course, the mayor. Wilson Hall from Fermilab. So it's going to be a fun way to celebrate Batavia this holiday season. I'm looking forward to seeing lots of pictures of families gathered around the table playing Batavia Opoly this holiday season. So, but don't hesitate to call if you have questions or want to order a copy for yourself. I'm done with my spiel. So now I have these beautiful ladies here in the front row are part of a Step Above Dance Academy. They have just joined the chamber or becoming a member, and they are celebrating their move to 129 Flynn Street. So I would like to introduce to you Shannon Claiborne.
Hi, everyone. I apologize in advance. I'm a little hoarse today. My name is Shannon Claiborne. I'm the CEO and Artistic Director of A Step Above Dance Academy. I have with me today Kathy Holst, our CFO and Vice President, and Catherine Schuler, our Director of Marketing. We just want to thank you again for having us today. We're very appreciative. I'd like to start today by just explaining what it is the Step Above Dance Academy does and what we have to offer the dancers in Batavia. We've been in business downtown since February of 2011, and we're now in our second home, as Holly has just mentioned. When I decided to open ASA, I envisioned a place where I could deliver top-notch dance education to my students, provide a safe environment with them, with positive, encouraging teachers, and a supportive atmosphere. And I feel like we've been able to accomplish that. We've been able to offer our students a competitive performance background, an artistic performance background, and truly a top-notch education. I wanted my students to fall in love with the art the way that I had when I was a child, and feel that they could use ASA as a home away from home. And that vision turned into reality when we opened our doors here in 2011. Though we enjoyed growing our dance family and making a name for ourselves in that facility for the first 6 years, we struggled with our building and knew that in order to give our students, continue to give our students a good education, that we would need a new space for them to learn in. So with a lot of hard work and dedication, we have successfully moved into our building on Flynn Street in March of this year. With that move, we had the chance to hit the refresh button. We gave our customers a brand new building, but we were also able to give them a brand new, fresh look, improved programming, and a dynamite faculty. Around your tables, we've passed out our new brochures that our Director of Marketing, Kate Schuler, helped put together, demonstrating our new brand, featuring some of our amazing, talented dancers, and explaining the new program that we've been able to develop in our new building. We've been able to create a facility that now houses our full administrative team under one roof, and it's a great home for our students. Our work continues to be driven from our mission statement to commit to providing a well-rounded, high-quality dance education in all genres of dance through a degreed and highly trained professional faculty that will instill proper technique, self-confidence, creativity, respect, and an admiration for the arts in all of our students. We truly strive to make each student feel special and talented every time they walk into a class with us, and encourage them to use dance and artistic expression to live a rich and enduring life. Among the advancements that we were able to make in our programming in our new facility was the addition of a brand new pre-professional ballet program with our new director of ballet, Ashley Anderson. We were able to bring a truly one-of-a-kind program to the Batavia area, offering a much more disciplined, classical, and professional style of ballet training to our students. This program requires our dancers to train more rigorously and more hours, exploring different styles of ballet, and it offers them the opportunity to perform at some of Chicagoland's most exciting events, including the world's largest scholarship performance competition, Youth America Grand Prix, which they'll be competing in January. This program is truly one of a kind in the area, and we are so excited to see it grow. We look forward to presenting Batavia with a full-length ballet in 2019. As a dancer myself for over 27 years, and as a professional studio owner, I've seen all sorts of dance studios and been a part of all different kinds of dance studios. Some are operated as a hobby by the owners, some are trial businesses, and some come and go. ASA is not my hobby, it's my passion. It is not a trial business, it is sustainable, and it's not going anywhere but up. I've signed a 15-year lease in my current space to make Batavia my long-term home, and I've truly done my homework. The industry has reached $3 billion in this country, having grown about 2.5% each year from 2011 to 2016. There's almost 9,000 studios in the country with revenue growth around 1.2%. Most, like ASA, are independently operated and cater to the local market. Most owners, unfortunately, bear a burden, both financially and logistically, of independent ownership. Margins are very thin and time commitment is exceptional, but the improving economic conditions will result in greater disposable income, fostering greater personal spending on recreational activities such as dance. Furthermore, a family's rising income boosts demand for more lucrative private classes and high-profit merchandise sales, which benefits revenue growth for all dance studio owners. And of course, this demands communities that are prosperous, that are supportive of their local business and residents, and that foster business development through partnerships and mutual assistance. I truly believe that the success of my business over a long term significantly depends upon partnerships that I build within this community. That's why I've been involved with Batavia Main Street, which has been extremely helpful in connecting ours with local businesses and giving our dancers the opportunity to perform at different community events. We've returned again this year as a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really excited to see what it can offer small businesses under the new leadership. When I first opened ASA in Batavia, I was not familiar with the dynamics and relationship between the city government and small businesses. Through the last 6 years, I've learned a lot about that dynamic, and I'd like to capitalize on the education by working with you all to support and better each other, something perhaps that hasn't been maximized. I believe the success of my business ultimately helps Batavia thrive, and I'd like to know that I can count on this community and people like you to help that success come to fruition. Today, our studio is growing. We have completely rebranded our organization and are of the opinion that we are the top professional dance studio in the area, and we are committed to good stewardship in the community. Our new facility will be our home for at least the next 15 years and hopefully much, much longer. I'd like to leave here this evening by asking you all to help me learn the best way to establish a solid partnership here with the city, to learn how to work in unison to help not only my small business grow, but to assist all local businesses to do the same, and to be a team player that all of you are proud to support, proud to know, and proud to call a partner. It's my sincere hope that we can find a positive dynamic with the city, that we develop a relationship that is respectful and professional with an understanding that small businesses need help from their local government to thrive. And on a final note, as we close, ASA will be holding its annual dance concert this coming June 3rd at West Aurora High School at 5 p.m., where we will also be featuring a brand new ballet act to highlight our new pre-professional ballet program. Our students work hard all year to demonstrate their dedication and skill, and we would be honored if we could look to our local community to come see them, then their skill that they've worked so hard on all year. It's a wonderful cultural event, and the support of our partners would be much appreciated. Of course, we will provide more details as the time comes closer. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to allow us here today. I'm proud to be a part of Batavia, and I look forward to many more growing years here.
Well, we thank you for choosing Batavia, first of all, and for expanding in Batavia, and for growing in Batavia, and for setting such an outstanding reputation, because I've heard it from others, parents and other people in the community about what a super job you guys are doing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do to help sell Batavia and make us look very positive in the eyes of the rest of the world. So
Thank you.
thank you for a great job.
Thank you very much.
So as a proud customer who spends some money, a lot of money there,
Yes.
everything that you have said as a business is absolutely true, and your vision, you've already succeeded on that.
Thank you.
But the best part about this as a dad of a proud student is what does separate you is your cultivation of the arts.
Thank you.
My daughter has a great, profound sense of the arts because of it, and I do consider her an artist through her dance, and a lot of that comes from you and your staff, and I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving then to item number 11, which is Resolution 17-133-R, renewal agreement with the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is under Government Services. Alderman.
Okay, it's time to renew this agreement. We've been part of the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau since 2007, along with the cities of Aurora, Plano, Sandwich, Yorkville, and the villages of Big Rock, Hinckley, Montgomery, North Aurora, and Sugar Grove. It is the mission of the organization to promote tourism in and among the member communities and to raise awareness of the amenities available to each community. The city of Batavia, since we don't have a hotel, we don't make any financial contribution to members at this time. to the membership, just the communities that do have hotels. Do you have some things you'd like to say? I know that Jamie and James would like to speak.
Yes, actually, I was just up here to introduce them and allow them to talk about what the organization is doing for its member communities, and share how you can get more information about the beautiful document that they've produced that promotes all of our communities. So with that, I'll turn it over to James.
Hi, everybody. So did you have any questions, or did you want me to just kind of speak generally about?
Why don't you start by speaking?
Okay, sure. So the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau is anchored, of course, by the city of Aurora. And what we do is we market the entire destination of 10 communities, all the way from Batavia on down to Yorkville, anchored by Aurora, out west, to include the communities of Sugar Grove, Big Rock, Hinckley, as one big tourism destination. And that's for leisure travelers, that's for meetings, for events, for group tours, and sports events, which is really where our organization brings in the most measurable economic impact to the area. In the visitor's guide that I passed around, you can see just a couple pages deep, we produced a map that kind of collects all of the attractions in the area, the main attractions. And in Batavia, what's most relevant here is Fermilab. Fermilab is a really unique Department of Energy site that's publicly accessible. They host group tours every Tuesday. They host major events like their community open house in February, and the community event that they did in September of this year drew over 20,000 visitors to the area. And so while Batavia doesn't contribute necessarily in terms of hotel lodging taxes, Batavia benefits quite a bit from inclusion in the organization. We are marketing Batavia independently, but also Fermilab as a visiting destination. And so what consumers aren't spending here in, overnight stays, they're spending dollars on gas, they're spending dollars on dining, entertainment, and that sort of thing, and that's what we're doing to promote. We're promoting those aspects of visiting Batavia.
Does anyone have any questions of James?
I would just add that having some interplay with the other cities that are members of this, I think there's a great recognition that this really is a worthwhile organization and really does provide a valued service to us, because there is a continuing growth of people wanting to visit or stop by or whatever. And probably one of the more common questions I get as the mayor is, why don't you have any hotels in town? So, that's being generated by all these people that are dropping by here. So this thing is working, whether, I don't know if we've acknowledged it to the degree that it is, but I certainly would endorse renewing the agreement, because it really does, I think, provide a valued service and hopefully puts us in a better position to attract that hotel that will someday be a contributor to this idea.
Do you do much to promote recreation?
I'm sorry.
Do you promote recreation also?
We do. And so one of the major features, do you mean like outdoor recreation?
Yeah, like the bike path.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
absolutely.
use. Okay,
Yeah,
that's part of.
when you think of all 10 communities, what we share is the Fox River, and it's a really remarkable destination for paddling, destination for biking. We're also part of a broader Fox Valley Cooperative that includes all 65 miles of bike trails up and down the river, from McHenry County down to Montgomery at the end in the Aurora area. So yeah, that's a major focus of what we do.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's very nice.
I'd also like to put a plug in. I haven't distributed it yet, but a save the date will be coming out for February 1st, our 30th anniversary annual meeting. Would love to see you all there.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, that's good.
Jamie, do you have something you'd like to say? No? Okay. No. All right. Okay.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I will. I would like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 17-133-R, authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement to continue participation as a member of the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Atek, second by Alderman Callahan for the approval of the renewal of the agreement with the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Atak?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Jansit?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Weitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. I forgot to make mention that Alderman Erler had joined the meeting, so we do have the full complement of. McFadden just left on me, I guess, there for a second. I look up and I said, I was going to say we have a full complement, and then I look up and somebody's gone. But anyway, you're all here. Okay, moving to item 12, which is ordinance 17-70, an ordinance providing for the issuance of general obligation bonds, Series 2017 of the city of Batavia in Kane and DuPage Counties, Illinois, for the purpose of financing certain capital improvements within the city, providing for the levy and collection of the direct annual tax sufficient to pay for the principal and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof. And this is again under government services with Peggy Colby at the dais.
Right, okay. So as the council, we agreed to issue these bonds before when we approved this improvements for stormwater infrastructure and city hall windows. And our bond council has recommended some bonds to us in the, hold on a second, let me go to the next. You want to, I'm still loading, Peggy. Do you want to talk? Okay.
Sure.
Here we go. So they recommended Northwest Securities of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so we'll be issuing, we received bids for $6 million, and they're recommending, we received, bids from 6 places, and our bond council suggested Northland Securities, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And are they here tonight to speak about this?
Actually, Mark Giarantina from Spur Financial, our financial advisor, is here, and he was going to make the presentation of the bids. The bond sale was this morning, and if you'd like to come up, Mark, and he can go over that with you. And then, once approved, we would pass this ordinance as acceptance of the bid.
Okay.
Good evening. As Peggy mentioned, we did receive bids today for the city's general obligation bond series 2017. We received a total of 49 bids from 7 different bidders. And the winning bidder was Northland Securities out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with a 3.14%. And this is over 20 years, so it's a very favorable rate. In 2015, the city issued bonds for 20 years, and we got about a 3.28%, so it's better than 2 years ago. The bonds will be used to finance certain stormwater and city hall improvements. And during this process, the city also affirmed its AA1 bond rating from Moody's, which helped with the lower interest costs. We think this bid is favorable, and we recommend that it be accepted. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Marty?
Yeah, I just happened to note in the, I'm assuming that it's a typo.
It is a typo, the 2.19, I saw it myself, yeah.
Right. Just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
And what other factors do you consider besides rate? Were there any factors you considered besides rate in recommending this company?
All these 7 bidders are very well qualified, so we normally just go by the lowest rate, yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I guess we need a motion.
I will make a motion. I would like to recommend to council the approval, I recommend the approval of ordinance 17-70, an ordinance providing for the issuance of $6 million in general obligation bonds, Series 17 of the City of Batavia, Kane, and DuPage Counties, Illinois, for the purpose of financing certain capital improvements within the city, providing for the levy and collection of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest of said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Atek, second by Alderman McFadden for the approval of ordinance 17-70. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Janset?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
Ordinance 17-70 is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Moving then to item number 13, which is approval to waive formal bidding for purchase of a cardiac monitor from Zoll. This is under City Services. Alderman Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is for a replacement for a cardiac monitor for the fire department. We went over this at the committee of the whole meeting last week, and basically just a replacement unit for an out-of-date old unit that will need to be replaced. First thing we need to do on this is to waive formal bidding on this, as this comes through a purchase. It's through a purchase plan that the staff feels is very cost-effective to go through that, although it's not listed on the Illinois state plan, so we have to waive formal biddings to start with. The budget was set up at $29,000, and what we come in at is $25,000, so a little bit less than what the budget is. This monitor would be an upgrade from what we do have. It gives the ability to see an underlying rhythm during CPR, rapid blood pressure assessments, adult and pediatric AED capabilities, display screen that can display all of the 12 leads at one time, the ability to print the past 12 seconds of the rhythm, and relatively smaller and lighter in weight. And with that, is there any questions? If not, I'll make the motion that we waive formal bidding for the cardiac monitor.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Wolf, second by Alderman Callahan to waive formal bidding on the cardiac monitor. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Janset?
Aye.
Motion to waive formal bidding is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, moving to item 14, which is Resolution 17-132-R, authorizing the purchase of one cardiac monitor for the fire department. Alderman Wolf.
I'll make the motion that we approve Resolution 17-132-R, authorizing the purchase of a Zoll cardiac monitor in an amount not to exceed $26,000.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Wolf, second by Alderman Callahan for the approval of Resolution 17-132-R, authorizing the purchase of one cardiac monitor for the fire department. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Janset?
Aye.
Resolution 17-132-R is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, moving to item number 15, which is approval to waive formal bid for purchase of a Terex digger derrick truck from Terex Utilities for an amount not to exceed $268,757, and this is under Public Utilities. Alderman O'Brien.
Alderman Chanzit's going to present this, Your Honor.
We discussed in committee a $280,000 budget for replacement of this vehicle. It came in well under budget. Same process here. It was we have to waive formal bidding because it wasn't bid out by a process accepted in the state. So the only thing to note on the memo was that the trade-in value was very low, so we're going to go ahead and sell the old vehicle on our own. So if there are no questions, I would make a motion to approve Resolution 17-126R, authorizing the purchase of the Terex digger derrick truck.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Chanzat, second by Alderman
Wait,
O'Brien.
what?
But we don't need a motion to waive formal
I thought we
bidding.
needed a motion, I'm sorry, to waive formal bidding first.
You're making that motion?
Making the motion to waive
Second it? To waive
Yes.
formal bidding first, okay. Any discussion on that? Alderman Savati?
I just want to congratulate the Public Works again for coming under budget on another capital item that they consistently do a really good job of getting a deal. They're going to their budget and they're consistently finding ways to get under it, and that's awesome. Really appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor to waive formal bidding. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Chanzit,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Salvati,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
McFadden,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Atack,
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Motion to waive formal bidding on the digger is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, now moving to item 16, which is Resolution 17-126-R, authorizing purchase of a Terex digger derrick from Terex Utilities for an amount not to exceed $268,757. Alderman Chanzat.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Chanzat, second by Alderman O'Brien for the approval of Resolution 17-126-R. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Chanzit,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Salvati,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
McFadden,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Atack,
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Resolution 17-126-R is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Moving to item number 17, which is Resolution 17-127-R, resolution pledging use of property tax for street capital fund. And this is under government services. Alderman Atack, do you have this?
Yes. So the committee of the whole meeting asked that Peggy and the city agree, or Peggy prepare a resolution saying that we would pledge property tax levied for street purposes to be transferred to the street capital fund. And that's what this resolution does. Are there any questions? I make a motion that we approve Resolution 17-127-R pledging use of property tax to the street capital fund.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Atack, second by Alderman Stark for the approval of Resolution 17-127-R. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Atack,
Aye.
Stark,
Aye.
Chanzit,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Salvati,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
McFadden,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Resolution 17-127-R is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, moving to item number 18, which is approval, 1 Washington Place recommendation of a revised RDA compliance and redesign of plan. And Laura Newman's going to do the intro on it.
Yes, so at the Committee of the Whole meeting last week, the RDA amendments, which included a revision of the plan and the building composition, were had a negative recommendation back to City Council on a vote of 7-6. The following day, staff met with the developer, and the developer tendered an idea that was meant to address some of the negative feedback with regard to there not being commercial on Wilson Street in the proposal that was put before you. The idea was that the residential spaces, which were in the new proposed plan, that those would not be built out to be apartments, and that they would be left in kind of an unfinished state, so that initially they might be utilized as commercial spaces. However, they would have the configuration of a residential apartment, and that means 9-foot ceilings, and that the units themselves would only be about 1,000 square feet apiece, 4 of those on Wilson Street. The issue, though, is that because the developer does not believe that commercial spaces of that size and composition would be very marketable in that space, that they would not be willing to solely shoulder the risk associated if those commercial spaces were not able to be leased. And so the suggestion was that in some way that the city ensure against the risk that those would remain vacant over a course of time. Now, whether that means that the supplement of rent, or if it means that the developer has at a certain point in time the right to change those back to residential, they'll be shouldering the cost of transitioning those, the cost that would be associated with turning those units back into residential units. But they are, as they stated before, they're concerned with the viability of those commercial units. So while the item that is on the agenda for you to vote on tonight is merely the exact same issue that was before you at the committee of the whole meeting, this idea has been presented by the developer, and so perhaps prior to getting to the discussion and vote on the item on the agenda, you may wish to discuss this possibility for 4 units of commercial on Wilson Street, but would have the same dimensional aspects as the apartments which are proposed.
Well, I'd like to be the first to speak. I've been on record as being in favor of this project, but I got to tell you, this one I am not too enamored with the idea, given the fact that it seems to me to remain unclear where this money may have to come from as far as the city's participation in trying to bail this thing out, I guess I will call it, if in fact it goes in that direction. We've tried over the many months of this discussion of this proposal to make sure that we were very cautious in not allowing this to be a burden on the backs of property taxpayers in Batavia by using the TIF to fund largely this whole idea. And so therefore, we were not going to be going into the property tax levy or the sales tax funds or anything else that are helping to sustain the city and maintain our rather lower property tax rate. And this thing just scares me. I don't know if I think that this is a good idea or not, given the fact that there's no certainty. Number one, the developer himself is suggesting this may not be a good idea and will probably crash and burn in the middle of the street. And secondly, nobody's telling me where this money's coming from. And at a time when all I go to at meeting after meeting in Chicago and Oak Brook and all the places I have to go to as the CMAP chairman of the Council of Mayors and listen to all this dire conversation about the status of the state of Illinois' funding and don't look to them for any money, I don't know if I think this is a gamble that I think Batavia should be taking. Alderman Atek?
I kind of agree with you, and I'm not that in favor of commercial in that site. That said, we have a fair amount of time before it's going to be constructed. And I'm wondering if the developer has some sort of promotion plan in place for this, these 4,000 square feet, whether he would be willing to promote it, and whether we could, once it's built, maybe at that point, if you don't have if you're willing to promote it aggressively and, whatever, and once it's ready to either, you get to the point where we say we're going to go residential or we're going to go commercial, we can do that. I mean, we can say we'll go residential, no one's knocked on the door, and we don't have anything. So there's at least a year, probably.
So I hear a couple questions that you're asking. The first one is, would we aggressively promote it? Yes, I would answer that shortly, yes. and it would not be any different promotion or advertisement marketing than the retail space that we have on River Street. In essence, we would be marketing all of the commercial space that we have in the building, some on Wilson and some on River. You tenant, which space do you prefer, et cetera, and have that discussion. Certainly, we would work with city staff, economic development, if they have prospective tenants that approach the city, like to talk to them about both spaces. You've added another, one of your other comments or questions, added a different perspective or another idea to it, and you're correct. We have to go through, we have some time. We have to go through the HPC Plan Commission if we're approved, and then at some point we have to get to construction drawings. So to me, at that point, when we're preparing construction drawings, we really need to know, is this going to be built as shell space that could be used either or is it being designed for residential?
And it's
So
that different? Yeah, because if you're leaving.
For a building permit review, yes, it would be. And basically the facade, if it's going to be a commercial facade, then I think you're going to want more of a storefront type window.
Yep.
Plus ADA accessibility requires that any commercial square footage be ADA accessible. And that's one of the issues that we have there with the steep slope on the exterior. Residential, when you have what's called direct access, which is the type of units that we're proposing there, where you have one stairway going into that 1,000 square foot space, since we have other ADA units within the building, those units facing Wilson do not have to comply with ADA accessibility. So that's why there's a little bit of design difference between the two.
So how much time do you think?
Certainly, I would say if it takes us, I would give it about, say, 6 months before we really need to make that decision as to which space it is. However, a little bit of a problem in there, and we'd have to work out, I'm thinking now out loud, is what do we show on the plans that we give to the Plan Commission for approval? Do we show them both elevations and they approve both the residential and a commercial? Do we show them a commercial? Do we show them a residential? So it's a little bit, and same thing to historic preservation. We'd probably have to show them two elevations.
Well, it was just a thought.
Yeah, so.
Alderman Stark?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask you to please elaborate on your comments about putting this on the backs of the taxpayers, because it's a kind of a broad statement, and I'd like to know how this would fall on the backs of the taxpayers based on how the development agreement is proposed, as well as the bonds, as well as the SSA, et cetera, and the TIF district. So I would really like to hear how this could potentially fall on the backs of the Batavia taxpayers.
I would like to hear, do we have enough revenue coming in this whole thing, coming at it from all this directions, where I'm being told that somebody's looking maybe for $800,000 here. And where's that $800,000? Is that what the number was?
It's $80,000.
$80,000, okay.
And that's over the course of an entire year.
Is that $80,000 for one unit?
No, it's based upon a $20 per square foot rental rate that is $15 for rent, a $5 common area maintenance. So each unit would be $20,000 per year.
A year.
And as we're stating, the time periods could be much shorter than multiple years.
And then the vision is we would be the subsidy, or somehow the city's funds would be the subsidy for this?
We would make up the difference in the whether it was vacant or rented at less than market.
Exactly as being described, and maybe I'll try to put it very simply, is that we have the developer believe that's going to be vacant space. The current pro forma that has been run for the project assumes that square footage is going to generate revenue. So with this potential loss of revenue, that we would be asking the city to make up for any loss of revenue in that space if it's sat vacant. Now let's assume that a tenant occupies half of the space, or the best tenant we could find comes along and only generates the $10 a square foot versus $20 a square foot. We would be asking that the city make up that difference. Again, the whole concept and philosophy is we believe that that square footage is going to generate revenue, and that revenue that it's going to generate is based on the residential revenue.
Well, I mean, I guess, Dave, it worries me that you're in here asking this because you must have this fear and the suspicion that this isn't going to generate the tenant.
I'm a commercial developer.
I know you
we
are.
have 1 million square feet of commercial space. I've said before the committee of the whole that I believe, and our firm believes, that there's not going to be demand and not sufficient for the space, and that's why we're proposing it to go to residential. In all fairness, we still believe in this project, and we are not willing to give up. So here's another idea. I'm not trying to move the goalpost. I'm trying to find solutions to the problems that were put out in front of us by the city council. And what I was hearing was there's a concern about the commercial square footage. You want commercial. Okay, if you want commercial and you believe that there's a demand for commercial, hey, I hate to use the French, but put the big boy pants on and participate with me in the event that there's no commercial comes. But if you believe that there's going to be commercial, then your risk or your worry should be very, very slim. And we're partners in this, right? We start from day one. We said we're partners. So yes, I don't believe that there's a demand for commercial. We propose residential. In our pro forma that we shared with you, we have residential income coming in. You want commercial, I have to somehow make up that difference in that revenue into the analysis. So that is generally the concept, and that's what was presented to staff. Do I have all the details? No, we were kind of working through it. Have I ever done this in another community? No, I haven't, but I was trying to be creative to find a way to respond to the issue that I was hearing the council members come up with.
Alderman Brown, you can make a comment.
Yeah, I can't, like you, I can't see strapping the city with any further financial obligation to this. I just can't see that that's something that we want to do. When Laura sent the email out last week about this conversation that she and Dave had with, or she and Chris had with Dave, I gave her a call the next morning and I said, maybe we could consider something where instead of a financial partnership, we would say that if at a certain point in time where maybe 70 or 80% of the units were occupied, if that space hadn't yet been occupied as commercial, that would be pretty good proof in the pudding, more or less, that it wasn't a marketable space for commercial. And maybe that would be something the developer would consider. But then as I've thought about that some more and had some other conversation, as Dave just said, do you set it up then as commercial facade or do you set it up as a residential facade? And there's a cost whichever way you go if it doesn't go that way. And then you also have to consider the ADA aspect of the whole thing. You have to consider that it's a 9-foot ceiling height and a very shallow depth that they would be trying to lease. And then you also, I think, you have to consider the fact that you've got a developer who's in this business, both commercial and residential, telling us he doesn't think it'll work. We got an economic development consultant that we pay very well to consult with us and tell us what he thinks is the very best thing for the city of Batavia. He's telling us he doesn't think it'll work. So I don't know why we're so hell-bent on trying to do something because we think it might be the right thing or because we think that we want to make sure we've got enough commercial to satisfy the residential that we're going to be putting there. I just think we've battered this thing around an awful lot. We've talked about it. There's no new surprises here, I don't think. We've got a revised RDA in front of us that we discussed in great length. We've all had plenty of time to ask the questions. We've all had plenty of times to think about it and talk with each other and question staff. And I think it's time that we just take a vote on this thing and see where it goes.
Now, I've not been in Batavia for 40 years, 50 years, but I can tell you in the last 17 that I've lived here that the location next to the dance studio that was a kitchen store for a while has remained unoccupied for much of the time. There's no retail that's been beating down the door to go in there. If you move up the street further north where Sage Creek Accounting was, again, it's a building that is sitting there. There was no retail. There's no retail. No one is, again, beating down the door to come there. So when I look at even walking further up the street, additional retail there has never made total sense to me. It was a way to look at the project initially, but when I think of a difference of having apartments that come out onto the street versus retail stores, I think it's a much better use. And again, as Dave said, you know, the developer and Chris Aston, who are actually in the business, they are not people who are IT people, IT salespeople like me, marketing people. They're not, their job is to know what will be a good use of that. I don't know why the council constantly wants to second guess those decisions based on public outcry, based on so many other things. It's, in my opinion only, it's pandering to social media outcry, and I don't believe in it. I get emails from people who demand I vote a particular way, and I look at those and say, you have not been here. You do not understand that this developer has had the patience of a saint with this council. It took us the better part of a year to acquire one piece of property for this redevelopment. One piece of property, the council went back and forth, meeting after meeting. We sat here trying to decide what to do over one small piece of property. The fact that Shodine has stuck it out and continues to want to work with us is shocking to me. Going back in time, prior to many of the people sitting on this council, Batavia had a horrible reputation of being hard to work with. Jerry Swanson, as our economic development director, was a horrible man to work with, and no one wanted to come to Batavia. It was, everyone said, it's hard to work with Batavia. The council is hard to work with. The city staff's hard to work with. We very slowly were able to turn that around. And what I've seen in the last several months is we're going right back down that rabbit hole. And Batavia is not a quaint and charming town. It's a town that is stuck. And so when we turn away people like Shodine, who say, you know, we don't like Shodine. Well, I heard those same words when we were working through the Walgreens project. We don't like Batavia Enterprises. We don't like Evergreen for Campania. Well, who do we like? Does anyone sitting in this room or listening to us have $20 million to invest in a project? Because if they do, I invite them to come to Batavia, but no one is beating down our door to invest this type of money in our downtown. And so frankly, I apologize to Shodine, I apologize to our staff for the indecisiveness and the obstinance of many of my fellow council members. So that said, I continue to support this. I think that Shodine is helping to take us to a new level on that corner. It's 2 blocks from my house. If anyone has a vested interest in having this project turn out well, it is me. And so I have talked to people. I don't just pay attention to Facebook. I don't just pay attention to angry emails that I receive. I go out and talk to people who live in the 4th Ward who say, we need this. We're tired of just having used car dealerships when you drive down Route 25. We want something that looks good in our town. So again, I wasn't here for the last meeting. I got emails saying, how are you going to vote? I got called out on social media. I got called out on other boards saying, well, Alderman Susan Stark feels this way. It's like, you know what? I vote based on all of the facts, information that is before me. This is not an emotional decision based on, oh, I love Shodine. This is based on what is best for the area and what's best for our town, in my opinion, based on many hours of sitting through meetings about this project.
I think, Dave, you sat down a little too soon. Can you come back up? I appreciate the compromise. I really do. I guess my question is this. It's got to cost a lot of money to create a blank space that could maybe be residential or maybe be commercial. If you legit don't want this as commercial, then don't propose it. Let's just move forward with what you have. You're saying there's no way that this could be commercial? You're 100% clear that this cannot be commercial.
I have said, and I'll say it again tonight. No, I do not want this to be commercial. and I'm in the commercial business. I'd be more than happy if I think I could rent it to go with the commercial, but I don't think so. And that's why I came up with the proposal. And, you know, the first, it was called a brainstorming session, sitting down with staff, just off the cuff of the sleeve. The first idea, and that one kind of died, but I'll throw it out here on the table. We're going to, in essence, we're condoing the parking garage. So this whole building is a condo building, and that parking garage will be the city's condo, that one unit. Why don't you buy the commercial space? Be in the development business, and you could sell it. Sell it to individual condo users. Or you want to rent it? Rent it. And that'll be another condo unit that will be yours, and you pay for it.
And there's no scenario under which you would build this as commercial, give it 6 months, give it a year, see if you can rent it, and then you flip it into residential. You want us to pay from day one if you can't rent it.
The suggestion was just made tonight. That's a good suggestion. If we wanted to go out and market it for 6 months, while we're working on the plans, I think that's a great idea. There's really little to no cost on either part, but at some point we have to draw drawings of what we're going to build,
right,
and then we're going to build it. And so then, in my mind, I said, okay, how do I, with my partner, the city, how do we share that risk? And that's where I know that it's going to take some dollars to convert it from commercial to residential.
If you were willing to propose this, you must really want to build this building.
I'm sorry?
You must really want to build this building.
We have been committed to this project. We've put 2.5 years into this, and we're hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably $500,000 into it. I want to push forward.
So what's another $80,000 if you give us a year?
No, I don't know that you heard what Laura had said, that to convert the space, there's a cost.
And
we would cover that cost to convert it. But at the same time, there's other costs, such as the space has to generate a revenue to pay for the actual building. And that's where we're saying, okay, we cover the cost to convert the space, you cover the cost of the revenue that we need to generate. I can't bear the revenue and that cost to convert it if it doesn't go.
So that's really just calling our bluff money. That's what that is.
No. It's a share.
If we're being stubborn and saying no, I'm not going to vote yes unless you give me the retail that you promised me, because there is a contingent of votes that are not supporting this project because you took the retail away. Well, it depends on your perception, I suppose. But.
Yeah, and the $80,000 is 1 year.
I get it.
So we said, okay, what do we need? We used the example down at Dotson Place down in Geneva, where we had commercial space. There was some space that sat there for 2, 3, 4 years vacant. So we said, okay, what do you think you need to try to release this space? We threw out, okay, 5 years, just 5 years. If you wanted it to be 3 years, then it's 3 times 80,000 ish, which is $240,000. But that's a lot of revenue that you're asking me to make up.
Yeah, for comment, if you wouldn't mind. There was a mention that I had opined that it wouldn't be good commercial space, and I believe that to be true, and I believed it from the moment that it was thought of with respect to replacing the residential. The original plan, I thought, was a viable retail space. It was significantly deeper. Picture yourself walking into a Main Street type a retail streetscape in a successful downtown. Typically you see a storefront of about 30 feet wide and 70, 80 feet deep. Think of this wall as the front of the building. This is the depth of the building. Typically when you walk into a building, you see deep and narrow. That's just how products are laid out most efficiently. If you're only looking at a 21-foot deep space, it just doesn't meet your eye for retail. And actually, all told, the amount of space is about 3,000 square feet, I believe, 29, just over 3,000. Plus or minus 3,000. Just to get that clear. So you combine that with the slope, and the slope affects you can't have a floor like this. You got to stagger it. So let's say there's 3 different stagger points. and making those handicap accessible, you're just going to have small spaces. And that might work for an insurance office. That might work for, from a retail perspective, maybe a small cafe or a tea shop. But you're not likely to get retail in there to any substantial degree. And I just felt, especially when it was first thought of, well, let's condo the space and the city can take it over. You know, we're not commercial brokers or managers. We have a hard time being the landlord at the Tomley building. It's just not our bailiwick. And the combination of what doesn't sound right, doesn't feel right, and the fact that the developer thinks it'll be vacant space, but he'll propose it because it's more consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's mostly consistent with what some of the council would want. If there's a way to make it work, and it's a lost leader for a while, so be it. But I stand behind my position that I don't think, particularly retail, it's viable retail space. And I think it's tough commercial space.
What about commercial space across the street in the old gas station spot?
I think you got a greenfield site there with all the opportunities in the world. That's a good sized parcel. That is a very viable retail space, but not anytime soon. It becomes much more quickly a viable retail space when you put 190 some odd apartments within 300 feet of it.
Why isn't it viable now?
Well, first of all, the ownership is not really stepping up to market it. I think they're looking actually potentially to sell it. They haven't got the no further remediation letters that they need to make it viable. City has pretty much told them what we'd like to see there is a mixed use that includes commercial on the ground floor and residential upstairs, another opportunity for more residential, and they have not come back with a plan that's consistent with that. There was up till about September. We gave them until September to come in with a plan, and if they didn't have the plan in place, they'd have to bring in the soil and lay down all the seed. And that was a significant cost to them, but they couldn't get the financing or at least the development interest to put a plan together. So that tells me that I think that's mostly a function of ownership, is why that hasn't been subject to a development proposal. The owners bought it, kind of out of, it had been foreclosed upon. So they got a good value to buy the land, but they're not prepared. They don't have the wherewithal to do the development yet. But again, as we said last week, I think the project, if you want retail, I believe retail will come if and when the project is approved. I think that'll really expedite the consideration of retail. But if you're not going to get retail on the subject property, I don't know what we're waiting for. It's really on the come. And if it involves the city having to spend a substantial amount of money, I don't know that that's well spent.
Alderman Strong.
First, the initial proposal, I'm against. I agree with you, Mayor. We're not in the business to hedge developer risk. See, we got to make a decision one way or the other. But I don't get, Dave, in response to your comment and Susan's, this is new. This came to us, we've been at this for years with a plan, and retail was a great idea. It was presented. It was, woo, everyone was in it until now we listen to the developer. I mean, why do we have a vision or a plan for the city if we're just going to say, the developer, do whatever you want. You're the expert, do whatever you want. That's not how it works. It's kind of hypocritical when you want to sell it now that this is what we do. I mean, we had a vision for this, and it's not just the retail. Any one of those things I can be sold on, but all of a sudden it's too much to give in my opinion. I'm all for, I was a huge proponent from the start. Since I've been on for 5 years, I've been, economic development and being business friendly has been a big thing. This is all about this last minute turn being too much for us, or for me, and that's it. It's not about Facebook or any of that stuff or anything like that. I've been clear from the beginning, and when it pivoted, I was clear then. But I don't get how we can sit here and say, give the developer no disrespect, give them carte blanche, that he knows best, so let him do what he wants. I mean, we had a vision and we talked about it for years, and it just doesn't seem right to go down that path.
Alderman, can I respond to that? In all due respect, we took that vision. We believed in that vision. We prepared concept plans and preliminary plans with that vision. We believed. We got to construction documents. And that's when you get into construction documents, you get into the very minute details to how many risers, what the height is on the riser of a stair. And upon further review and investigation, we figured out how to get this commercial in there. But then in the end, what we found out, the cost was huge. The cost was so expensive.
I have no problem
and regardless
with
of your,
pivoting.
so that's the reason why it had to change. And I tried to present to you factual evidence as to why the cost was. The dropping of the floor to get the high ceiling, the bedrock that's high at that corner, getting down into the bedrock, getting access in, the number of doors that you can get into the retail. All of those are factual points that came out in the very detailed study and then came out in the cost of the contractors looking at it, came back to us and said, look, the cost to build this portion of the building is very expensive, and you look at the rent that you're going to generate from that space, it doesn't make financial sense. And unfortunately, those are the facts that I had to come back to you with and say, the dream looked good, we all believed, but the facts are the facts, and that it was a cost-driven issue.
And I respect it and I understand it. But to me, that cost is too high. That's my vote, and that's fine. What I don't like is now staff telling us, oh, since the beginning, we didn't think retail was good. Which now that isn't what we heard for 2 years.
Never heard that.
That's not what I said. When the original plans were in place, there was a 13-foot about ceiling. There was also a more legitimate 70 feet some odd depth of the commercial space. We knew there'd be a challenge with the slope, but it could be accommodated, and the spaces were deeper. From the beginning, the staff, actually the initial thinking about commercial there came from staff. When we first met with the developer, we said, in the ideal world, we want to see the commercial district in downtown Batavia stretch to the east and stretch to the north with this property. And it came out that way. The initial plans came out that way. And there were legitimate commercial spaces on both River as well as on Wilson. But when they had to go back to the drawing board to save money and also increase revenues to make the numbers closer, and there was some kind of a return analysis that was done on the part of the city that indicated that this was a fair return under the new project dynamic, the retail space, the proposed would-be retail space changed dramatically. It changed in building height and it changed in building depth, space. 21 about feet deep. You know, that's about just over the length of a parking stall.
That's fine.
And so I can sit here and say that's not viable, but my point, Alderman Sedona, is that in the very beginning, we were behind the retail. It wasn't until the retail changed its composition with respect to size and viable space that you couldn't get over those hurdles.
All right, then I'm just going to talk in numbers' sake then. The pivot, because of the financial changes, right? We had to give up parking spots, give up retail, and you know what? If we were going to give those things up and it made it for a better pro forma, and we knew, okay, now we'll be able to pay this back in 15 years instead of no, it's going to take longer to pay it back. The costs to me have gone too great, okay? So that there's my decision. What I'm saying is I don't like the fact that people now are telling me, no, this is the way to do it. This will be better. Don't sell me on that. Just tell me, here's the different cost. I'll make my decision, but don't try to tell me it's going to cost more and it's a better design, because we should have done that in the first place then.
Well, we didn't have all the information to know that. I am saying that this is better, this project's better than a theory, an ideal of what we wanted. That's not the case. What we wanted was better, but we can't build that. So this project, in my view, is better than nothing. And this project also is better than a project that's not financially feasible, that's going to force the city, if we still want the project to move ahead, to take some kind of financial exposure and risk. I don't think that's wise. I think my personal feeling is, and I know you're not a real fan of the parking study, but as you know, according to our own parking analyst, using that shared model again, this actually parks itself more, there's a surplus parking under this plan greater than there was under the old plan because of the commercial being replaced by residential, which peaks at a different time. So I believe it, as I said last week, it's a better project in terms of the overall increment and the overall return. It's a better project with respect to parking, and it is not a better project when it comes to if we wanted more retail in the downtown. We do lose retail. Even if you went with the proposal that we're now kicking around, which was another one of these instances where we met a problem, we didn't walk away, we decided to try to solve it. This is what was come solving it. And it was not to solve the project financials. We recognize what those were. It was to solve the need to comply with, in some of the council's mind, adherence to the comprehensive and the strategic plan, which called for more retail on Wilson Street. So that's why we came back with, okay, well, if you really want retail, here it is. It's in a much more shallow space. We still got to deal with the slope dynamic. And by the way, because the developer thinks that it'll remain vacant, he's going to look for some kind of subsidy, either make rent lower than market rate, or unfortunately, in some cases, actually pay outright market rate versus zero if it's completely vacant. We wanted to put that out there collectively with the developer, but and if the council is dead set in the majority to have retail or at least commercial space there, there's an opportunity to do that. Apparently the drop dead date is someplace about 6 months down the road when he's got to call the question and design the building either according to residential or commercial. But that's an option still. But again, personally and professionally, I believe if that space is commercial, I strongly believe it's not a productive retail space. Again, you could perhaps have smaller office spaces or service-oriented spaces.
I get it, and I understand. And half of this is because I feel defensive that I changed my opinion because of Facebook or something like that, and it's not the case.
I didn't say everyone, Nick.
I want to be clear, because I was supportive of this project. I was supportive of Shodine from the beginning.
Yes.
It just, at this juncture, it took a turn that made it too costly for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. We could debate that day and night.
But I understand the perception. Look, in the old school, we used to say this looks like a bait and switch, and I'm sure that's the scuttlebutt on the street, but it's not. The developer wanted to build what was originally approved. It just didn't pencil out.
Alderman O'Brien?
I think our vision did not change. We wanted retail. We never had retail there. And so the proposal was made, we're going to put retail on Wilson Street, we're going to put retail on River Street. The constructability of it is not there. They found out the constructability of it was not there when they got they started crunching numbers and getting tighter on the design. And so the developer came back and said the constructability is not there, is what he told us. The change, the only difference that I see is the risk the developer wants to take. We have a $16 million ceiling. It's that $2 million that he wants it guaranteed and not on the basis of the project itself at the very end of it. That's a change. The parking is a little bit of a change, and the retail is a little bit of a change. There's not a great change to me on this project. It's just not a great change. And I believe if we go through with this project, our vision will be fulfilled because retail will follow. I mean, we built River Street, and there was a lot of pushback on River Street. River Street has become quite successful, okay, because it did take vision to see that. And there are people on the council years ago who had the vision that pushed it forward, and we have River Street. And they always said, River Street, things will develop from that. This is part of that development from River Street. And I believe to vote for this is to say, I have vision for the future of Batavia. I mean, we're going to get a parking garage. Now, it's going to be a shared parking garage, but it's going to be the city's parking garage, and the city, at the end of the day, will have paid nothing for it. No taxpayers will have paid anything for it. It's a free garage is what's happening. And then at the end of the day, and then in the future, when this TIF sunsets, the amount of money going to be generated for our other taxing bodies, it's going to be a windfall. I just think this is a slam dunk to me, and we're really not veering too far. Now there's been changes, and when the change first came, I was highly upset. I called up Chris Aston, and I was like yelling. I was like, what is going on here? But he said, settle down, and I just took it home with me and started just thinking hard about it, and like, there was no great change. I didn't see the change, because for a few little things that they had to detail out, and I get the constructability of it. Going into bedrock costs a lot of money. And should they have seen it? Perhaps they should have seen it. We did do test borings. Maybe just not there we didn't do a test boring. But, I mean, I build a lot of buildings, and I understand the cost of that, and I understand what he was saying. I just don't think there's a great change, and I think this is a vision for our city. And I don't do the social media, but I get a lot of emails. People are opposed to it, as Susan said, and it's not an attack on people, but we sit through all these meetings, and we read all these documents, and it just, we were all for it. I mean, this is a game changer for our community. This is a major game changer. And when this came 3 years ago, everybody was on board. I mean, I knew Kevin Bodeman was not, and he had his reasons, and a very fine councilman, absolutely. Just didn't agree on that. But this was definitely a game changer, and it is still a game changer. And it's going to change the face of our downtown and move it forward. And again, we pay for things for people. We pay for our police, we pay for our fire, we pay for ambulance with tax revenues. This is going to generate tax revenues. That's where the cities make their money. And then we're trying to keep it off the backs of our citizenry on their property taxes. So I think this is a game changer, and this is going to move us forward.
Alderman Callahan?
Yeah, so when I put my big boy pants on and voted a final vote on this in February, I'm having a hard time deciding when they were experts then in what we were presented or when we were experts now. Because the only reason this is before us is through no fault of our own. This is a 6 to 8 right now with no shovel in the ground, $1 million oopsie. That's no small change. And all these other things, the retail's going out of the way, parking's going down, more people, those things cumulatively go from what we all weighed thoughtfully for a long time. And we went from 13 to 1 to 7 to 7 probably right now. And on that, what does that say as a yes vote that 10 months ago we were all together? Nothing major has changed. We've got one different person, well, 2 maybe.
3
maybe.
That those votes haven't necessarily changed, but it is now gone to limping into a game changer for the city. We are going to drag a divided council on what is supposed to be our largest crown jewel on it. And we weren't talking about major changes to this. We're talking about small, minute changes that have moved it over the line. That when we were initially thinking about this and weighing it, Mike, you're absolutely right. We wanted to make sure that what we were doing, that paid for itself, that it wasn't on the backs of everyone else in the town. That was the main selling point. And we struggled with figuring out where that right number is. And it went up in height. And it went up in height to make sure that it paid for itself. But now, this would have been built not through any Facebook, because there has been no greater outrage recently than we didn't see before. But we saw the same thing when it was 13-1, and now it's 7-7. And the same people that we were all thinking and weighing this when it was that, if you can't say that it weighed on people's minds now, but it didn't weigh then. And if it's pandering, I will pander to the residents of Batavia any day of my life, because those are the ones who put us here to make sure that we're putting in something that they want.
All right, please, I'm going to just say this, just let's not all be defensive, but the $6 to $8 million that the increase in, we're not paying that. I mean, the only difference financially is we're guaranteeing the $2 million on top to be paid with the tax increment. The developer's picking up the rest of it, and we were going to give him, we were going to have that shared money in the original proposal. He was the ceiling was at 16 million. So it's all we're doing is taking away his risk. It's all for the 2 million. It's a lot of money, but he was still going to get it if how successful the project was. So it's not like we're paying the $6 to $8 million. So it went up, but he's picking up the lion's share of that.
And I understand that, and I that fully makes sense, and I agree with that. But at some point, Dave and I had a long discussion about this. It's economics is all about perception, and you always want to make sure that you have more of a demand than a supply. And we keep moving the numbers this way on supply with some cutting back, in my view, of some of the amenities, which would be the demand. And that's just economics 101 for me, and it goes to not necessarily that this thing is going to pay for itself because we're going to have the SSA. There are more intangibles at this stage of the game. I want to make sure that we don't have a project that quote unquote pays for itself but is viewed unsuccessful because a large segment of it sits vacant, because that would affect why we bought Larson Becker, and it makes sure that that is being able to have some desire to sell that parcel next, because I don't want to sit on that and own that property. That has always been the goal. The reason why we're buying it is the quick turnaround. Well, if all of a sudden we start building and we have some concerns that this isn't going to fill up as fast as we want, well, that means that sits off the tax rolls for a little bit longer time. That means that that's more carrying costs for us and less opportunities. And for me, that's where I'm seeing the struggles of this as supply versus demand.
Supply versus land? I'm sorry, Marty.
Demand.
No, supply of land versus demand for the land?
Demand for everything.
Do we have a marketing study on this? I mean, the reason we're not doing commercial is because the developer...
Did we when we approved this?
Is that our place? The developer is looking at this and saying, there's no demand for commercial or retail here. We want to build more residential because that's what we feel we can lease.
But we were told there was. Because it was going to be, we can sit here and go back.
But the costs have changed that.
Right, and that's not our fault. That is the person that was the expert that should have known how to build a building in the hillside in the Fox Valley.
Now we have more information, which is not
The
that
bedrock isn't
unusual
new.
in a construction project. There are always new things in a construction
No, the bedrock
project.
is a known. It is a hillside that river has been running through millions of years. There is no new bedrock that didn't miraculously pop up.
But the construction drawings are new.
All right. Alderman Brown, you had your hand up. You wanted to make...
No, I didn't.
Alderman Stark.
I just, one of the things that really resonates from what was said tonight was, and I hate the word resonates, as I said it came out, I thought I hate that word, but that Dave spoke about Dodson Place and the places they have on 3rd Street, Geneva, which is a shopping gem in the Fox Valley that sat unoccupied for 5 years. And so to have some kind of a backstop, if we force them to put in retail, I understand where he's coming from. Because if something sits on 3rd Street unrented for 5 years, he has to be a little nervous about, would something on a hill in Batavia rent? So that further solidifies why I understand why he would need some guarantees about retail if we forced him to put it in. So, and then further to the comments about, we have to listen. If we had listened to our residents about the library, not us, the library district, we would have never torn down the middle school or the high school, and we wouldn't have the jewel of a library. If we had listened to the outcry of the residents about River Street, we would have never done the River Street reconstruction, which is now a jewel in a place where we all gather. If we had listened to the residents and put in a second bridge, we might not have traffic problems like we do. So the council makes decisions based on all of the information they have at the time. And so many times, as the mayor likes to point out, much to the residents' chagrin, Alderman Brown's father purchased this building and the land it sits on. So sometimes we have to make unpopular, based on the resident perception, decisions based on long-term growth and opportunity within Batavia.
I think.
Let me let Alderman Metzler, I'm trying to let everybody have a moment to get in here.
I'm going to echo a couple of things that were said here. I wanted to hear what people's comments were. I was not a third new. I was actually in all the Plan Commission meetings. I attended those. I made sure I was video recording them so I could watch them back. I, like most others here, sat through the hours of public testimony. I don't just sit behind a Facebook post. I was at a Christmas party just this past weekend, and 11 o'clock at night, I'm having a conversation with somebody about what is going on with this particular development project. I try very hard to get in front of people and hear what people are saying and thinking about this and try to clean up some of the misconceptions and misinformation. Nonetheless, I can remember back when putting a vote on this thing at the start of the year, while yes, there were many voices in opposition, I still found it was about a 60-40 favorability. Those same people that were voting in favor or telling me they were in favor of the project are no longer in favor of what is the redesigned project here. And I've tried to clarify why that is, what the cost difference is, and try to assure people that that 6 to 8 million, that increase in the guaranteed amount from 14 to 16 million, that's not something that's going to show up on their tax bill. Nonetheless, they can't see this any longer where this project is. I'm a no, as I said before at the COW meeting, because there, maybe to Nick's point, there is suddenly this increased swing of change that doesn't match what, for the past year, at least for me, for past 2 years, it sounds like for others, was what we were buying, selling, however you want to title it and package it up. This to me feels just too different, and I no longer see the favorability in the people that I am speaking with.
Alderman Kelly.
Not everything that has had public opposition has worked out for our best. And Dave and I have talked about this one with Prairie State. If we knew what we knew now, we wouldn't vote for it. All worth it, what for my vote on this is I've seen enough of a change that I am no longer comfortable with it, and my background in risk management says put the brakes on. And the reason why is because it seems it's flying in the face of everything that we were voting for and the rationale that went into the vote for a yes for pretty much all of us. And now that that's different, and when those things for those other votes in past might have, if I had that information now, I might have gone differently. It goes to what Scott said previously. Had this been presented to us with this amount of parking, with this type of commercial, it might be a no. And that would have been okay too.
Mayor, can I, one of my concerns, and I'm concerned about our financial condition if we lose this project. I mean, I'm looking at this as a $50 million investment that we have coming into town. We're shooting $50 million in, and we have a TIF we've started running, and will run out. So we've talked about this, and we've talked about would we be able to get a developer to come in and do what Shodine is doing? And there's a good chance that we won't be able to have that happen. And I'm wondering if Peggy would be willing to address, and if you're not willing to, I understand, but say any comments about what you feel the financial risks are here, or the financial impacts of this project, and then not doing this project. But if you, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I've certainly tried to keep my opinion out of things and just give you the financial information. And this project coming into Batavia would be very good for Batavia. And the financial, Alderman O'Brien indicated that the city is not paying more. The total with this change is only the $2 million up front rather than 50-50 over time. So that's the only financial change. So the TIF itself has not received any increment yet. It was formed in January of this year. We'll receive our first tax payment next year, and that goes for 23 years. So we would have 23 years from next year to have the full increment.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, I think so. I understand.
Laura might want to add to that.
It's an opportunity cost, right? In all likelihood, if we move forward with this project, we would be building it, I'm guessing at sometime next year. We'd begin in that construction season. We've seen the time that it takes and the effort that it takes to get to this point. I think this is probably maximizing the amount of investment that we could expect to get out of this redevelopment site. And that other developers, if we are going to ask them to put a parking garage into bedrock, and also with the commercial space above it, they certainly are going to run into exactly the same issues that this developer is running into. So in all likelihood, the project would be different than this. And so I guess what the decision comes down to is there isn't much financial difference between where the project was and where the project is today. I guess it just comes down to if not having those 3 or 4 commercial spaces on Wilson Street are enough to give up on a $50 million investment in our downtown, and having all of those new residents right in our downtown and attracting the type of retail that we would like to see in that area of our city.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't involved in this in the beginning. I was just a citizen, and so when I first saw the plans and everything, I reacted probably like a lot of citizens out there. It's like, oh my gosh, this thing's huge. Why are we doing this? And then as I was elected and then really started pouring through everything over the years that has happened on this property, it was more obvious to me why we were doing this. And I was a proponent of it. And the changes came, and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, felt like we were doing this to start driving that retail revenue and start expanding our retail base in Batavia. So it was a struggle, and I'm fighting over it a little bit in my head, and I keep on thinking about it, and I want that to be retail, and I think that's the hardest part for me, is seeing that I thought that was going to be a whole cool strip that would be starting in or around that corner and moving west, and we'd have this, a nice area, especially kind of encompassing the whole block, and then north on River Street more, and it just felt like that's what we were really trying to accomplish, and that's what I thought I heard. I was attending meetings probably from September on. I thought that's what I heard everybody saying is like, yeah, this is going to be great. It's going to help drive our retail, and I just don't see it, and that's the issue I have. But again, I struggle with it because it's like, okay, you hear what our staff says, what Chris says, what the developer says, and I know everybody's going to, want to take what a developer says with a grain of salt. I don't know how it is viable with the retail. Who's going to come in and spend the extra money and dig in the bedrock and make parking work the way we wanted it to. So it has been the struggle for me, and of course I don't have as much invested as the rest of you do in it that have been in it from the beginning. I just want to get that out there because I think I came into it uniquely as a citizen initially when you guys were talking about this, and that I understand where everybody's coming from outside. So,
Your Honor, I believe, just for clarifying some things, is the developer would put retail on Wilson Street if he could in that location. It's just not viable to do that. Not because he doesn't want to do it. The constructability of it makes it too cost prohibitive.
No, I understand.
That's exactly it. And I guess it sounds like we're drawing to the close on this debate, and I guess I'll just want to give a couple closing comments. We're still willing to move forward with the project that we have before you as a vote. I apologize to all of you if I've created further emotion and chaos, but after hearing the debate at Committee of the Whole, I saw or heard of a hurdle, and it was my attempt to try to throw some ideas at the wall and come up with some suggestions to appease those requests for the commercial, and didn't mean to create several hour or longer of further debate, but so at least it was an attempt. So thank you.
Your Honor, Dave, before you leave, for clarification, if we were to consider, because right now we've got this revised RDA in front of us to vote on, if we wanted to amend it to include the suggestion of the commercial, right now the revised RDA has taken the parking from 348 to 335, and it's said that will work because the retail is being eliminated. But if the retail were to be kept within 6 months or what have you, now that makes the whole parking thing a muddy issue again, correct?
You're correct, and we with staff talked about that, and it's. Yeah, you're finally learning, or you're understanding that it's like the old water balloon. When you push on this side, it pushes out that side, and so that's yeah. And I'd hate to have another hour debate on that topic, but that is a realistic. You're putting commercial in that has a higher parking demand than the residential. So there we go, playing with the parking numbers. Yes.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to make the recommendation that we accept the.
Wait, before you do, Drew had his hand up for a while. I don't know if anyone else wanted to add. You're good?
Yeah.
Well, I'll make it, and then there can always be more conversation. I'm going to make the recommendation that we accept the revised RDA compliance and redesign of the plan.
Second.
Now, that doesn't include the retail then, as you're talking about?
Without the retail, it's just the RDAs
Just so
as what has
everybody's
been
clear.
presented to us, yes.
I need to raise one small issue, which is the language in the RDA that you have in front of you. We continue to dialogue about it, and there's a little tweaking that we need to do before we bring it back for a vote in terms of the language in the RDA.
Yeah, but just for clarity, depending on what they're voting on, whether it's that they require, well, according to Alderman Brown's vote, it's with the existing revised plan where it's the apartments on Wilson Street. Is that correct, David?
Correct.
Right. So That's, with respect to the RDA, that's what will be reflected in the exhibit, which is the floor plans. So that will solidify at least the land use and the demising of the floor, or I should say, the composition on the floor plans. You're talking about some more technical issues that are in the last red line?
It's the language of the plan. Things have changed so that the order of sequence doesn't make sense anymore, so we have to tweak it to make sure that it's in line with where we're at.
Which is, you missed last week, but we brought up some of the substantive changes, which include some of the obligations that are expressed for each party.
Yes.
Some have been completed already,
Right.
so that'll change.
Exactly.
And obviously, the amount of the TIF grant will change, right? And the exhibit will change.
Right.
But those are pretty much the substantive changes.
Yeah, the big issue is the plan.
Yes.
So if the plan goes down, I mean, if the council isn't approving of the plan, then there's no sense.
Agreed.
Finishing the tweaking on the RDA.
If I could point out one other change to the RDA, because I think it's important that we approach the developer with the issue that we're building the public parking deck first. And building the public parking deck isn't going to create any increments. And so early on, as we're going to be making those bond payments, the developer offered to make those payments and be reimbursed further down in the, as the project does make increments. So I just want to point that out. I thought that was nice on their part.
So is the city attorney recommending to us that we not vote on this at this moment?
My recommendation would be that we vote on the plan.
Right, exactly.
Because if the plan is a no vote, then there's no sense even talking about the RDA.
All right, so I move to amend my motion.
If you read what is exactly in number 18 for the approval, that would state what we should be approving tonight, what we should be voting on tonight. Got that. Because it's not a resolution, it's not an ordinance. It just simply states 1 North Washington Place, recommendation of the revised RDA compliance and redesign of the plan.
You want to see it, Dave?
I'm trying to get to it.
Alderman Rosado, do you have a question?
Yes. On the parking garage.
Yes.
We're saying that we're not paying for anything. Does that include the monies that we put out to purchase the properties as well? Are we going to get paid back on that?
Those are TIF reimbursable expenses, so long as the increment, there's more than $16 million in increment that is developed over the course of the 23 years of this TIF, then we could pay ourselves back for expenses like the acquisition of property.
Marty's over here.
Question regarding the language where we're talking about the redesign. Do we know if this will necessitate going through the plan commission, and if it is a no, what is the vote on that? Is that a simple majority or to override, or would it be a 2/3?
I think there's some question as to whether it needs to go through the plan commission. That's part of the dialogue that we've had. I think we've gone forward assuming that it would. But there may still be some discussion, some analysis that has to be done. In terms of whether it's a majority or supermajority, we're talking majority vote at this point. I mean, to approve the RDA, majority vote. To approve an amendment to the RDAs.
Right, no, I'm looking future because I know it has been discussed about the length of the TIF, and we don't want to waste time.
Right.
Well, I want to make sure that if this passed and if it did go through, that we haven't wasted a year needing 2/3 of a vote on a plan that wouldn't be supported.
Yeah, we don't have full analysis on whether and for what reason it needs to go back to the plan commission.
Thank you.
That's correct. It's a PUD zoning. Within your zoning ordinance, there's 2 different definitions of a change, a minor adjustment and a major change. And staff and village attorney and our attorney have asked for a legal opinion as to whether it's a minor adjustment or a major change. But that being said, we have no objection to taking it back to HPC and the Plan Commission, but the ultimate question is this a minor adjustment or minor change or a major change? And the only difference between those two is a formal public hearing. But every hearing we've had on this project, whether it's required or not, has ended up to be a public hearing.
Your Honor. I guess I just want to reiterate something that I said at the Cal meeting last week. Regardless of what we do on this, whether we vote for it or against it, if we intend with whatever our thoughts are behind what we want on that property or what we want downtown, it will have to be something of this scale to be able to generate the money within a TIF to be able to build a parking garage. So if it's not here, if it's not across the street, if it's not within the area for the TIF, we're not going to get what we all want. And, you know, I come back to that time and time again, that this is what we've asked the developer to do. We're now being asked to give up, in my mind, is 3 small businesses along Wilson Street. We're moving the actual facade of the building away from the street, away from the curb, and adding a little bit of a buffer in there. I actually think that's going to look better along Wilson Street on that side of it. And if I was a developer and coming into this town and seeing what this has been through, what has happened in the last 3 years within the city council, within the development of anything in this city, and saw something like this go down, I don't know that I'd be the next one to come in here and try and propose something to us. I think that's a really, really hard thing for somebody to do when they look at what's happened with this in the public here and within this chamber. So I don't think if we say no to this, that there's going to be 3 people that are going to show up next week, next month, next year and say, I want to go in there and build something like that in Batavia. So that's my biggest fear, is we talk about how we want to try to be more builder friendly, how we want to be more development friendly, how we want to be more commercial and retail friendly. If this is the way we're doing it, it's not going to happen.
So, I mean, I think there's a question that we have to make sure we all understand here in this item 18 on our agenda, 1 Washington Place recommendation of revised RDA compliance and redesign of the plan. That does not include any of this, as I'm understanding it, that does not include any of this retail operation that we were discussing early on. So just so everybody's clear on that, that's what you would be.
You're correct, Mayor.
Yvonne, did you want to say something?
Sylvia.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You two are always sitting next to each other, so I get you.
Sylvia Keppel, 1420 Becker Avenue. Regarding if it goes back to the Plan Commission, I have right here from your codes, Chapter 5.5 variances, Section 5.502 procedures. And we go down to section number G, item G, City Council action. The City Council may approve with modifications and/or conditions, or deny the variance ordinance. City Council approval of variance applications recommended for denial by the ZBA shall require a 2/3 vote. That's from your ordinances. So it would require a 2/3 vote. So
if it was rejected by
if it's rejected by the Plan Commission.
Right,
yes.
or the Planning Commission.
So if the Plan Commission, which is also the Zoning Board of Appeals, rejects it, it needs a 2/3 vote.
A correction. This will not go to the ZBA because it's not a variance request. This is a request for a plan unit development. It's a PUD. It's nuance in the ordinance, but they are different. Am I right, Councilor?
That's correct.
So it does not. So the Plan Commission could easily be overridden by a majority of the council. So they really have very little weight in their job then. Okay. So we've got that. And when you go back to your whole application for the TIF district, you have there in the legal documents, it went out, and it was all to create the TIF. The Washington-Wilson Tax Increment Financing District, under the section Redevelopment Plan and Program, Section 4, Redevelopment Plan and Program. Item C, redevelopment plan objectives. Number 3, one of your objectives when you approve the TIF and when you approve this plan, and it reads, maintain street-level building spaces for commercial enterprises within the city's downtown business district, especially those that, in the aggregate, provide larger spans of adjacent storefront spaces. Foster opportunities for commercial mass, generating additional shopping and dining customer foot traffic, with an eye on possibly transforming downtown Batavia into a destination retail and/or restaurant district. Now, when you're saying that, when you're diminishing the retail, you're totally going against what you set up this TIF for, what one of your objectives was. And this was in the legal notice that went out to the residents nearby. And it just does not seem like a fair thing to go and change things on them and on us, and to go back on a document that you approved because a developer wants to. He has called himself an experienced commercial developer a couple times here. If he is so experienced in commercial development, he should have known about the bedrock and the commercial space. There is really just no excuse for that, plain and simple. He's experienced, he said so himself, he should know. And he's dealing with the same thing in Oswego in that project that was just approved there. In the papers it said there is a grade to it and there is bedrock. So he understands. And for him to tell you he doesn't understand and he didn't know, that's a bunch of, I'm not going to say it. So think about that. Think about his experience. He should know, no excuse. And if retail will come when you build the residential, why won't the retail come to the first floor of the own building that you're building? Why would the retail come across the street and not to where you're building? It doesn't make any sense. The fact is plain and simple that Chaudine does not want to build commercial. He was quoted in the paper in St. Charles, he was quoted in DeKalb. He does not want to build commercial, and he gave you the bait and switch. My suggestion is you keep looking at the same kind of project. Why not put it out there for other developers to see what they want to do and see what options they have? You could build up. If you want a parking garage, you could build up and use the increase, it's in a TIF, use the increase from the property increases for whatever else is built to help build up a parking garage. Your current parking garage was built, according to documents, to accept a third deck. And so that's a possibility. But there's also the possibility you could build a huge garage for a fraction of the $16 million that you're going to be paying Chaudine. So there are other options. Why not put it out there, especially if you advertise all the land for $10? Clean land to a developer for $10? And flexible. Last time when you put out the RFQ, you gave them a diagram, of a plan, a drawing of what you wanted to go there. If developers didn't want to put something there, it's no wonder they didn't reply. See what they have to offer. This is not the only developer in town. And there was an article I came across. It was dated Sunday, March 12th, but it didn't give the year because it was reprinted. And it could basically be described as a tale of two developers. It talks about Aurora, where Chaudine, the city of Aurora went to Chaudine, like happened in Batavia, to develop some land on the river. And Van Treese, a Batavia developer, also went to Aurora, and they wanted to develop on the other side of the river. Van Treese had a difficult time getting things through, but they did. Chaudine got a cakewalk through. What happened was Van Treese started building, then the recession hit and it stalled, but he was given credit for jump-starting a part of downtown Aurora that allowed the Wabansi Community College expansion. And so he got something done. What happened to the Chaudine land on the other side of the river? Nothing. It's still sitting there. Nothing's happened to it. So there are other developers that will take opportunities and will get things done in a quick amount of time. This is not your only developer. Please consider opening up and getting other ideas. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Brown to approve the One Washington recommendations of the revised RDA compliance and the redesign of the plan. Is that what your motion is, Alderman Brown?
That's my motion.
I had a second by Alderman O'Brien. We have any further discussion on it?
Wait, I have a question. So we are going to approve the RDA?
No.
No, okay, so did you withdraw the motion?
No.
Kevin, what's the right language?
I think the motion should be to approve the revised plan, and then we would bring the RDA back.
Yes.
Tweaked as it should be. I mean, there's still some things, for instance, like page numbers have changed.
So keep the RDA out of it right now.
I think so, because there's still some really editing that has to be done to
All right,
finalize.
so I'll revise my motion to just approve the redesign of the plan.
And the approved redesign of the plan does not include any retail development.
That's correct.
On Wilson Street.
On
It does
Wilson Street.
include
Other
on
than
River
Wilson.
and State.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for the approval of the approved plan. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosato?
No.
Atack? Aye. Stark?
Aye.
Chanzit?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
No.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
No.
Meitzler?
No.
Malay?
No.
Ewer?
No.
Saron?
Nope.
McFadden?
Aye.
7-7.
I'll vote aye.
Question?
Alderman Brown.
Now that that is done, what would the next step be, and do we have any type of a timeline on what we think the next step would be?
I believe the next step would be that we would make the changes to the RDA. It depends whether we're going to have an additional committee of the whole meeting in the month of December. We certainly could bring it back and even have it for approval as soon as December 18th.
I will not be at the next three committee meetings, so if you're going to go 7 to 7, you're going to have an interesting dilemma on your hands.
I think there's going to be some people not present at the
I think
committee of the
that's a
whole meeting.
ridiculous time frame because the history of this council has been everybody trying to make these committee meetings and these city council meetings in December. I mean, you're just playing a game with yourself here.
You're suggesting we wait until after the first of the year?
Yes.
So that would be the committee of the whole meeting on January 9th and the second city council meeting in January. We can bring that back.
In the meantime, will you be working then with the developer, or will the developer be working any further on this project until the RDA is done, or do we just wait until we see if the RDA is approved?
If I can answer that, our response would be that, yes, we will begin preparing what I'll call cleaned up building elevations as well as colored elevations, and then working with staff to come before the plan, preparing that package and application to go before the Plan Commission for an adjustment. And then lastly, maybe a minor technical detail is to get a legal opinion from the city attorney stating whether this is a minor adjustment or major change to the PUD, so it's done correctly.
So during the holiday delay of not having another committee of the whole meeting for this reason, there's things that will still be happening?
Absolutely. Yeah, as we've said in the past, that we have financing commitment on the project, and we need to try to work this through as quick as we can so we don't lose that financing that we have.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we got through that one. Administrator's report.
Yes, the 2018 budget as amended by the City Council has been updated and it's now posted on our website. The printed document will likely not be available until after the first of the year. but Peggy Colby is working with Chris Cudworth, our communications coordinator, on preparing a document that's called the Budget in Brief, which is a summary of our budget and maybe takes a more complicated document and puts it in more simple terms that can be absorbed more readily. And the Budget in Brief we hope to also have completed in January. I wanted to give kudos to Peggy and her team. They met with our auditors on December 1st, and the Comprehensive Financial Report, the CAFR, which is the report created as a culmination of the audit, once again received a designation for excellence in financial reporting. If I'm right, this is the 10th year in a row that the city has achieved this accomplishment. And through it's a recognition of their professionalism in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and attainment really represents a significant accomplishment on their part. Siemens completed the drainage ditch work that was necessary after a large rainfall. There was some problems with flooding to adjacent properties. And I do notice that on a daily basis, they continue to work on grading the rest of the project. But they're certainly not going to be able to vegetate the site until next spring. And I just wanted to give recognition to our officer, William Konofsky. He is a member of the Illinois Army National Guard. For the last several weeks, Officer Konofsky has been serving in the humanitarian effort in Puerto Rico. He's been with the department less than a month when he was assigned to this effort in Puerto Rico. So we've been delaying his swearing in, but we hope that he will be here on the December 18th meeting for his swearing in. Also, Public Works, the McKee Electric Substation has been taken offline to allow us to replace the station's controls, similar to what was done at the main substation downtown earlier this year. Crews are continuing to work on the Colonial Village project, and it's anticipated that the project will now continue into early 2018. Crews have assisted with the installation of the electric vehicle charging station that is now up and running in our west parking lot here at City Hall. Our wastewater treatment plant contractor has reported that they're currently about 7 days behind schedule, but the schedule is subject to variation in the next several months, depending upon the severity of winter conditions. So they're hoping that they'll be able to make up that time. And engineering is working to identify and finalize the streets that will be included in the 2018 resurfacing program. And last week, we hired a new civil engineer, Mr. Chris Bong, who started with the city last week. He came to us from St. Charles, and he has over 15 years of experience as a civil engineer. The city staff has worked with the Illinois Department of Transportation on the closeout and punch list for both Route 31 and Route 25 resurfacing projects. As we heard earlier today from Advanced, leaf collection has been officially completed for the 2017 season, and the Public Works Department will now be fitting those same vehicles with the snow removal equipment, hopefully just in time for the Friday expected snowfall. The new window at City Hall has passed performance testing, and we should be ready to install new windows in the 2018 construction season. And our cast-in-place sanitary sewer lining contractor is scheduled to begin work on December 14th. In information systems, they have a couple of large projects they're working on right now, which is the cabling at the Public Works and City Hall public announcement systems. And then starting next week, the audiovisual upgrade for the training room at the East Side Fire Station. And I have to congratulate the Batavia Park District. They did a really fine job on the Riverwalk canoe launch. The intake portage from the north was fine, but the southern Portage area was really broken up and suffered significant damage in the last large rainfall that we received. But there's a new concrete launch there now, which just looks fantastic. So kudos to them for accomplishing that project. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I talked with the city administrator earlier in the day, and in my travels in Chicago, I've run into several conversations about electrical charging stations. And I think the city of Batavia needs to develop a policy about what happens if somebody brings their car down here and parks it out front, and maybe it's a 3-hour charge, but they leave the car sit there for 6 or 8 hours. What do you do? That's a problem. It's already a problem in some other places. So do you leave the meter running and the person pays, for the rights to sit in the charging station, although they're all charged up? I think there's some stuff we need to address as to how we're going to handle that. If you've only got one charging station out here and a bunch of people come down here and decide to leave the car for the day while they go off to go someplace and come back 8 hours later, you've got a bunch of irate other charging needers that are going to be all upset with you. So I'm just suggesting to the staff we need to develop some kind of a policy on how we handle that. Do we call Dazzle down here and have them pull somebody out of there, or what should be the procedure here?
Can you just make them 3-hour parking spots?
Well, I think that may be the question. If you're going to bring your car down here, you know it's 3 hours or whatever it is, and then you come back and get the car out of there, because that's been a problem.
Anywhere else down here?
Other problems that people are parking the cars for extended periods of time. We've just recently began this bus on the shoulder up in Elgin, and we have a bus a parking ride there. And now the question's being asked, well, gee, we want to take the bus to the airport at O'Hare, and, we can get in there for $2.25 on the Pace bus, but can we leave our car here for 5 days in the parking lot and take up the space because we're going to be parking our car and getting on the bus and going to the airport? So that's a little dilemma up there that they're trying to work on as to what you do with all these cars that you want to leave sitting around and nobody wants to, take advantage of the opportunity, but they don't want to move the car for 5 days or whatever it could be. So those are the things I think we need to talk about. Anybody else? Alderman Stark.
Because my job allows me to sit at my desk all day, and because I'm flooded with social media, I do like to point out, though, that not everything you read is true, in case anyone was wondering. So today there was a post about the intersection of Main Street and Deer Path Road, and someone posted that the county has done a phase 1 study and has approved putting a light at that intersection. It's been up to the city of Batavia now to install the damn thing, I'm quoting. The only thing holding up the installation is the city. Please investigate, please. To which then I emailed Gary Holm and the engineering department to see if we were indeed the problem. So the truth of this is that we have been working with the county since the beginning on the project. We have secured federal grant funds to install a traffic signal and improve the intersection. The Facebook post was correct in stating that a phase 1 study was performed, but was not mentioned that the phase 2 study design engineering has been underway for some time and is almost complete. We are now seeking qualifications for phase 3 construction engineers. The project is scheduled to be let for bid next spring by IDOT. It should be under construction next summer, assuming we don't encounter any obstacles with the remaining property acquisitions. So that is the investigation of this. All that to say is we don't have light poles sitting around in the Public Works building, and we can't run an extension cord to that intersection. There's a little bit more to putting up a stoplight than just getting engineering approval from the county. So when you read it and you say, and you take it as gospel, please consider the source.
Some of us don't read it.
Some of us, it just comes flooding in.
Anybody else?
I was just going to comment, is there any parking restrictions now? Could somebody park overnight on Houston Street or in the parking lot out here?
I don't believe we've come to that conversation yet. But we're going to have to, I'm afraid.
One can get a permit for overnight parking in the downtown mixed-use district.
Or we have restricted time limit parking in front of City Hall right now. So
Yeah, 30 minutes.
I see no reason why we couldn't do that. For
Exactly.
presentations as well.
Yep.
Okay.
But something I brought up to the Laura so the staff could talk about it at their meeting and try to come up with some solutions.
Sounds good.
It's one of them that's caught some other places kind of, dither because they didn't put some deal together. People were taking advantage of parking their car in the charging station for 8 hours, so, Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Other business?
Couple meetings to announce, Your Honor. Next committee of the whole is tomorrow evening at 7:30. One item that community development will have will be the land use proposal for the villas at White Oak. It's on South Verdant Road. What that is a proposed development of approximately 60 units of age restricted. They would be in the duplex form, and they would be between 1,750 to 2,400 square feet. So that is the one item that we'll be discussing tomorrow evening for community development. Plan Commission is scheduled to meet Wednesday, December 6th at 7 o'clock, and then Historic Preservation is scheduled to meet December 11th, which is Monday at 5:30. That's all I have.
Very good. Other business? Anybody else?
Well, tomorrow night, Government Services will be looking at amending the wages and salaries for non-collective bargaining employees for the year of 2018, and looking at regulating the wage and salary of paid on-call members of the Batavia Fire Department for 2018, and we'll also be discussing elected officials' compensation.
We are? No, I don't
Oh, we're
think-
not? I'm sorry. Okay. That's all.
Under Illinois law, you can't raise anybody's salary during their term of office, so.
A little early for that.
City Services has nothing on the agenda for tomorrow night.
And Public Utilities has nothing for the remainder of the year.
Okay. Under the mayor's report, I just want to congratulate publicly the Batavia High School athletic program, and specifically Batavia football, for a dynamic show of sports and talent, and the fact that we have now been in the state football championship 3 times in the last 11 years. We won it twice, and as I said over here the other night when we had the little party for the kids and with Santa Claus, this year, when we had the homecoming game, the team was let out in the field by the former quarterback of the Batavia High School football team, who is the 1982 starting quarterback of the Super Bowl. And I would suggest that there are none of the neighboring teams, any place in the area, that can match that. Between being in the state championship 3 times and being a home alumnus of a Super Bowl quarterback, we got it all. I mean, so not that we want to brag, but we certainly do have a lot to talk about. And I go to meetings with I was at a meeting with a bunch of mayors down in Bridgeview a couple of weeks ago, and they were ribbing me about, all this stuff that Batavia had with athletics, was it in the water, and all this other good stuff. So, we do gain the attention, and, if nothing else, I've talked to a fellow realtor who told me that he had a couple call him last week, and they wanted to buy a house in Batavia so they could get their kid into the Batavia High School football program. So people are making housing decisions based on the predication of how good the high school football team is. So you never know what the benefits are going to be. But great show by the guys, great game. It's probably one of the more memorable games of state championship.
Almost thought I was going to need the heart monitor.
Alderman Brown, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Brown, second by Safadi. Burke, take a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.